So when the 1969 Major Junior season ended across Canada with the Montreal Junior Canadiens winning the Memorial Cup, some media was saying, well, this is the end of a dynasty, and a lot of people say, oh, just wait till next year. Now, the 1969-70 version of the Montreal Junior Canadiens, still the OHA, is considered by many the greatest junior franchise, one-season franchise of all time. A lot of people point to 1969, point to some of the squads in the Western Hockey League and the OHL, but there's no doubt this team could have played in the NHL, probably could have made it at least in the Stanley Cup final, because they had a balanced attack, good on defense, good on offense. Now, we're going to be culling information from different sources, but mostly HockeyWriters.com and some from Wikipedia. Now, in an article on HockeyWriters.com entitled "The Greatest Team of All Time, the Montreal Junior Canadiens," talks about the 69-70 season. According to the author of the story, the juniors from Montreal were the most successful and dominating team in all of the nation, defeating Darryl Sittler's London Knights, Dennis Potvins' Ottawa 67s, Marcel Dion's St. Catherine Blackhawks, and Guy Lafleur's Quebec Remparts, and Bobby Clark's Flin Flon Bombers. According to the Junior Canadiens played in the OHA, rather than the what is now called the Q, the Quebec League. Now, the Junior Canadiens were loaded with talented francophone players from Quebec, and anglophone players from Quebec, including Gilbert Perreault, Richard Martin, Marc Tardif, Réjean Hull, Ian Turnbull, André Demus Dupont, and Jocelyn Guévremont. Many, like Perreault, Martin, Tardif, and Hull, had already played several seasons together for Thetford Mines before signing with the Baby Habs. Now, not to confuse the Baby Habs with the Nova Scotia version, this was the original Baby Habs. Now, the Junior Canadiens soon had fans all over Quebec traveling to the Montreal Forum to see them play. Amazingly, they sometimes outdrew the parent team, selling out the 18,000-seater with numerous rabid fans. By comparison, most junior teams considered respectable to draw 2,000 or so paying customers. Now, the speed and finesse of the Baby Habs, combined with the Indiana rushes of Perreault, had the media speculating that he could beat many of the second-tier NHL teams. The Junior Canadiens again won back-to-back in 1969 and 1970. Now, the 69 series was very physical, and the Junior Habs proved he could take as well as give, outscoring the Regina Pats, the old whipping boys. They were very successful against Regina over the years. They outscored them 25-13 in 4 contests. Now, after the 69 season, Tardif and Réjean Hull were both drafted in the first round by the Habs. Now, Hull, the captain with 108 points, won the Eddie Powers Trophy as the league's top scorer, with Perreault placing second with 99 points. The next year, in the playoffs, Montreal began where they left off, winning the first game of their postseason 6-2, but the Sioux Greyhounds won Game 2 5-4. It was the first time in history that a team from the NOHA met an OHA team in the playoffs. Montreal quickly responded, winning the next 3 games. These are real scores, ladies and gentlemen. 10-1, 9-2, and 20-1, with Perreault, Turnbull, and Martin scoring key goals. Now, for the Richardson Cup, the Canadiens would play the Quebec Junior Hockey League champions, the Quebec Remparts. The Remparts featuring Guy Lafleur, Michel Briere, André Savard, and Jacques Richard. The Canadiens prevailed in a 3-game sweep in front of crowds numbering over 14,000 in Quebec City, which is pretty well capacity to Colisée, and more than 18,000 in Montreal. Now, their opponents for the Memorial Cup of 1970 would be the Weyburn Red Wings of the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. Now, coached by Stan Dunn, the Red Wings were a very tough forechecking squad. The games became closer as the series progressed, but the Junior Canadiens swept the series, winning on home ice on the Forum. Now, Gilbert Perreault, again, was eventually drafted by the Sabres after scoring 51 goals and 70 assists for 121 points in 54 games in that crucial, well, it's not the expansion draft, but the first draft for Buffalo. Now, Perreault came in second in the OHA scoring race to Dion, battling out till the last week of the regular season. Dion bet Perreault by 4 goals and 7 assists, ending the year with 132 points. Now, the Junior Canadiens also capped off 2 Memorial Cup championship events with a 9-2 defeat of the Soviet national team, which featured future superstar Vladislav Tretiak. Now, The Montreal Junior Canadiens of that year, again, a very interesting mix of players. Now, we'll give you the roster, and what's kind of funny about this, these names will ring a bell. Now, Roger Bedard led the team that year to a 37-12-5 record, which is comparable to a 50-win season in an 80-game schedule. Now, players, of course, included Gilbert Perreault, Bob Guindon, Bobby Lalonde, very underrated player, future star with Vancouver and Atlanta. Richard Lemieux, Jocelyn Guévremont, of course, with Vancouver, Buffalo, and Team Canada. God bless his soul, Rick Martin had 23 goals that year. Paulin Bordelot, very underrated. Pierre Bondamour, Claude Moreau, Scott McPhail, Serge Lajeunesse, Ian Turnbull, Hartley Monahan, Michel Latrell, Camille Lapierre, Alan Gorbensky, an Anglophone player from Montreal on defense, Michel Dion, the future NHLer, and of course Wayne Wood, who was a star at the WHA for a number of years. Now, Scott McPhail was the only player on the team from the Maritimes, from Newfoundland, and of course Wayne was from Toronto. So the regions were represented included Victoriaville, Labelle, Montreal, LaSalle, Temiskaming, Rouyn-Noranda, Quebec City, again Verdun and Granby. So they were representing all parts of Quebec. Now that year they scored 316 goals with 502 assists with 818 points. Again, Perreault led with 121 points. Perreault had 51 goals, Guidon had 43 goals, Lalonde had 42, Gaton had 32, Richard had 29, Rick Martin had 23, and Pierre Bondamour had 25. Now, Globensky, who was considered the protector and enforcer for the squad, 181 minutes and penalties with 6 assists, with Claude Moreau with 108 minutes in the sin bin. Now, the average age of the team, now Ian Turnbull at the time was only 15. And Paulin Bordelot was 16, so the majority of players, because there were so many rookies came in this year and the year before, there was not one player besides Pierre Bondamour and Serge Lajeunesse that were 19. And Dion was also 15 as well. So again, if you would have kept this team together in the NHL, can you imagine what you have done? Because you look at the top forwards, Perreault, Guindon, Lalonde, Graton, Richard Lemieux, Rich Martin, Paulin Bordelot, Pierre Bondamour, Scott McPhail, Hartley Monahan, very underrated player, and you also have Camille Lapierre, who could play the wing or center at times if needed. So, in my personal opinion, I've never saw them play, and the shadow, of course, was Guy Lafleur, because with Quebec, they had a little bit of more media. I know it sounds weird, but Montreal was overshadowed the junior Habs, but in Quebec they were the only literally major junior in town. And don't forget, they called it single A back then, but it was major junior. There's no way to describe it. It was designated later on. Now they were playing again in the OHA, not the Quebec League. So it's an interesting thing. So if there's ever going to be a documentary done on major junior in Canada in the late 60s, early 70s, the Montreal Junior Canadiens, those 2 back-to-back cups, they changed the way that people looked at junior. Before, they looked at junior individual players or regional teams. This team, again, with the expansion of the NHL, those 6 expansion teams, I bet you dollars of donuts if you played 9 out of 10 games against the expansion 6, and even Vancouver and Buffalo in 70. I think the junior Canadiens of this year would have probably won 9 out of 10 games, because if you couldn't outscore them, and you couldn't hold them, and if they needed to play defense, they could do it. And like I said, a well-rounded team, well coached, weren't scared on the road because they controlled the play. And let me put this in perspective, ladies and gentlemen. Within 2 years, Richard Martin, Joshua Guévremont, Gilbert Perreault were playing for Team Canada against the Russians. They weren't playing them enough. But you look at the overall talent, and like Bobby Lalonde helped with the basis of some of the expansion teams. Ian Turnbull, the best defenseman for Toronto in the 1970s, in my personal opinion. Michel Dion, a very underrated goalie, same like Wayne Wood. Very balanced. Non-household names, all the players on the team, but let me tell you, the NHL in the 1970s owes so much to the Montreal Junior Canadiens, because I know for a fact that coaches looked at the way that team was coached in those 2 seasons and said, let's do this for our teams. All I can say, what a pleasure to do this podcast. And again, Alan Globinski, who is one of the newest members of our New Brunswick Independent Author Association, we're doing some publicity for him to get the Francophone version of his great book published over the next few months. And Alan, interesting conversations I've had with Alan. He's given me some background as to some of the stories, off the record of course, about some of the players. And I can tell you, my dad always said, when we were called the Baby Habs before Nova Scotia, he said, I used to listen to them on the radio. He said, those announcers were just going nuts. It's like a rock concert. He said it's like if you're going to have somebody do play-by-play of a Beatles concert. There was a game, I think, that they had played against Guilford. I think it was game 2. And it was broadcast on the radio across New Brunswick and Quebec. I guess it was just rocking, just like a rock and roll concert. So ladies and gentlemen, that's the story of what we all consider, most would consider, the best major junior team in history, the 1969-70 Montreal Junior Canadiens. Thanks for listening. Bye.